If I was a video game character, I would definitely be a non player character or an NPC that would definitely not have anything to add to the player because I would probably be sleeping the entire time. Hi everyone, welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. This is Nareen and it's time for what MS taught me. And this one, today I do have something that MS taught me because it actually happened today. So earlier today, I was having my yoga session, and in the yoga session, my yoga teacher decided to make me walk, and not a lot of walking. Let me be perfectly clear. It was maybe 12 feet, but I think that and maybe fatigue, but yeah, because of that, I think some fatigue just crept into me, so much so that I really wasn't able to walk into the office when I arrived there. And I literally had people carry me to an empty chair so that I could sit down and recover. And the one thing I wanted to share about what MS taught me today is the recovery time. Sometimes we don't realize how much time is really required for us to recover from uh, really recover from us being us getting tired or fatigued at any point. And the funny part is that even me, someone who has 17 years of experience with MS, you know uh, definitely the longest relationship I have had, besides family. um, it's on practically impossible for me to even share how much time and how much effort it actually takes to properly rest so that I feel better the next time. And the worst part about learning that you never know what kind of respite or what kind of rest you need is the fact that you sometimes don't even know what the source of the fatigue is, right? So, like I mentioned, I felt terrible after yoga, but I didn't exactly wake up with the right spirits either, right? I was a little tired in the morning. I slept early enough last night. I think I slept a little earlier than I normally do, in fact. Uh, and despite all of that, despite sleeping a little extra, despite having a relatively restful day, um, and not even having a very strenuous yoga session in the morning, I am still just exhausted right now. And when I say this, when I say that I am exhausted, I mean it's it's almost a feeling where it creeps into your bones even, right? Because there obviously you might know the feeling of having legs made of jelly. You might know the feeling of just experiencing that thing that you cannot stay up for a minute longer, but somehow you can't sleep. All of those things, you have to imagine the fatigue that I experience to be pretty much a mixture of all of that, and to the point where, when you realize that you are a solid human and yet feel less than, liquid, that is when, you actually realize the extent of, you know where the fatigue is. And it's a fatigue that honestly, I can try and crack every single part of my neck because my neck feels tight. I can definitely get up, try and move about, try and stretch about, because every single joint somehow feels cramped at the same time. And then when I do, stretch it out, right, be it that I'm standing or be it that I'm sitting, that that end part of the stretch, when you actually feel the release, that release never comes to you. And that is one thing I wanted to share today because it is what I experienced today. And and this of course does not mean that tomorrow is going to be like this. Tomorrow can be vastly different from today, but at the same time, these things might happen, right? They and the sad part is that while many times you might know the reason that you feel very tired, there are days where you do not know why you're feeling so tired, why your body's hurting a different way, right? Why, having, your leg anchored 5 degrees on the wrong side is going to plague you 6 hours later by not behaving properly. I mean, all of those end up becoming, part of that fatigue. And this is, it's not the hardest lesson of MS, but it definitely is one that, regardless of, how well you think life is going, how happy you are with everything that is happening, it suddenly becomes a wake up call for you that, you have this condition inside you, right? It can strike at whatever time, it can strike wherever. And the whole thing is, a lot of times people will not have the ability to understand what that fatigue feels like when it's in your bone, right? When it's like at the core, right? Where you probably feel that, if I laid out each and every single muscle, each and every single organ that I have in front of me, and ask them how their day is going, they're all going to say, I'm tired. That is what today feels like. So yeah, now I do want to ask you, have you ever felt this way, right? And definitely this this definitely goes out to everyone with MS, but also everyone without MS. I mean, what are ways that you find rest after this, right? And funnily enough, I am actually recording this at, I want to say, yeah, around 11, which is about an hour earlier than I normally record these. And yet, despite all of that, despite the fact that I am doing this an hour earlier, and I'm probably going to sleep a little bit earlier today, even earlier than yesterday, which was already early for me. I'm just doing it in the hopes that I don't wake up to feeling even more tired tomorrow. So, with that said, this is Naren Zaivitamas. I am Naren. I do hope your Wednesday went very well. I know that the weekend is just a downhill slope from here, so I hope you are very excited for your weekend. I think I have certain things planned for this weekend. I don't know, I have to check. But with all of that said, here is me wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye.